Picture this. The arena is sweltering, and the sound of thousands of cheering spectators echoes like thunder off the stone walls. The air buzzes with anticipation as warriors emerge into the amphitheater, the sun gleaming off their armor. But amongst the fighters, some wielding swords, others net and trident, one figure stands out. She's lithe but strong, her braided hair flowing down her back. Her presence commands attention. A murmur ripples through the crowd. A woman, a gladiator. It may sound like something out of historical fiction, but it was very real. Female gladiators, yes, female, were an extraordinary part of Roman culture that's often overshadowed by the male-dominated narratives of combat and conquest we hear about from the empire. These women, known in Latin as gladiatrices, took to the arena to face beasts, other combatants, and sometimes even life-or-death challenges, all for the spectacle of the roaring crowd. But how did women find themselves in the blood-soaked sandpits of gladiatorial combat? After all, the Roman Empire is often remembered for its patriarchal structure, one where women were relegated to traditional roles of domestic life. For many, the thought of a woman stepping into a gladiatorial arena seems downright contradictory. But the realities of ancient Rome are often far more complex than our modern imaginations might allow. Let's start with the basics. Gladiators, both male and female, were the ultimate entertainers of ancient Rome. These weren't just barroom brawlers or street fighters. Gladiators were athletes, warriors, and performers rolled into one. While the vast majority were men, records and archaeological discoveries suggest that women, too, stepped into the ring. The Roman fascination with bloodsport knew no bounds, and the empire's appetite for variety and novelty led to some surprising spectacles, and gladiatrices were one of them. But here's the twist. The role of female gladiators wasn't simply about entertainment. It also served as a form of cultural commentary. In a society that so rigidly defined gender roles, seeing a woman not just fighting but dominating in the arena was a statement. Whether it was perceived as satire, empowerment, or subversion depended heavily on the crowd's attitude, and even the emperor's mood. Now, the evidence we have about female gladiators isn't as extensive as what we know about their male counterparts. But discoveries like the grave in Roman Britain, the one unearthed in London, help paint a picture of who these women were. Found within the tomb were items that aligned with gladiatorial symbolism, weapons, ceremonial objects, and decorative items linking the occupant to combat. The grave isn't just a curiosity, it's a clue that the phenomenon of female gladiators extended far beyond Rome itself. This discovery underscores the vast reach of the Roman entertainment machine, stretching even to the distant provinces like Britain, one of Rome's frontiers. So who were these women? Were they warriors by choice, rebels sold into combat, or slaves forced into the deadly games? Take the story of the Halicarnassus relief, an artifact that gives us a rare visual of two female gladiators. This ancient carving shows two women, Amazonia and Achillea, locked in combat. Their names, chosen for their mythical and heroic connotations, add a layer of drama to the image. These weren't just random women. They were fighters celebrated enough to have their likeness immortalized in stone. Even more fascinating, the inscription tells us that the match ended in a draw, a sign of mutual respect for their skill. But what was it like to be a female gladiator? Let's put ourselves in their sandals for a moment. Imagine training day after day in a ludus, a gladiatorial school, grueling workouts designed to turn you into both a warrior and a performer. You'd eat the Sagina gladiatoria, a special diet high in protein and carbohydrates to build muscle and stamina. Your life, much like that of your male counterparts, would consist of learning to wield weapons, dodge blows, and play to the crowd, all under the watchful eyes of trainers who showed no mercy. Yet, despite their skill and bravery, female gladiators were often treated more as curiosities than equals in the gladiatorial hierarchy. Roman writers of the time rarely spared more than a passing mention for them, and when they did, it was often tinged with mockery or astonishment. The satirist Juvenal, for example, criticized women who fought in the arena, portraying them as abandoning their virtue and feminine roles. To Juvenal and others like him, a woman taking up the sword was an affront to Roman ideals of decorum. But to the audience in the stands, a woman fighting might have been thrilling, shocking, or even inspirational. Over time, the popularity of female gladiators rose and fell like the tides of Roman politics. Emperors played a key role in shaping the spectacle, either embracing or suppressing women's participation in the games. One of the most infamous promoters of gladiatrices was Emperor Domitian, who ruled in the late 1st century CE. Known for his love of elaborate and often bizarre entertainments, Domitian famously staged fights between female gladiators and even dwarves, pushing the boundaries of what Roman games could look like. But just as their rise was fueled by political intrigue, their decline was shaped by it as well. By the 2nd century CE, the phenomenon of female gladiators began to wane. In 200 CE, Emperor Septimius Severus banned women from participating in the games altogether. Though the reasons for this decision remain speculative, it's possible that the spectacle of women fighting had grown too divisive, drawing criticism from conservative factions of Roman society. And yet the legacy of female gladiators didn't entirely fade. Artifacts like the Halicarnassus relief and the London grave allow us to reclaim their stories, showing us that these women defied expectations, broke barriers, and quite literally fought their way into history. So next time you think of gladiators, don't just picture hulking men with shields and swords. Remember that in the roaring arenas of the Roman Empire, women stood side by side with their male counterparts, leaving behind footprints in the sand and echoes that still reach us today. These gladiatrices weren't just fighters, they were symbols of resilience, courage, and the many untold stories of ancient Rome. And perhaps that grave in London is just one voice in a much larger chorus waiting to be unearthed. Who knows what other stories lie beneath the soils of history, waiting to remind us that the past is far richer and more diverse than we've ever imagined.